And we're ready to go. So back to you, James and Sarka.
Right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's nice to see that we have quite a few people on today again. I think we will start today pretty much similar to what we did yesterday. We will speak to our suppliers from Asia and Africa, and we will ask them very similar questions. Because yesterday was really interesting actually to hear what was going on during COVID for everybody and how is everybody dealing with the aftermath as of this year. So maybe if we start with BT and ask you how you were doing during the COVID period and how are you doing now? Is it getting any better? Has anything changed dramatically? Just give us a little bit of information about your place.
Okay, so we want to start the story from 2 years back or maybe 1 year back would be enough.
Yeah, just maybe what changed when COVID came to your country?
So when COVID came to our country at the beginning, we don't really feel a lot of big impact, you see. And then slightly maybe after the China incidents, and then when it went all the way to maybe like 3 or 4 months later, then we feel some impacts. So during that particular time, we still remain open, you see. And then after that, the whole thing becomes slightly serious. And then like in June, I think, June 20, now it's 2021, huh?
No, 20.
Yeah, 2022, 2020. Then June, the government started to close down for a few months. And then from that particular time onward, close, open, until 2021. Then they started to close, like the whole garden has been closed for almost like 7 months, I think, during 2021. So that I think maybe it happened to all of you also, I think. The whole thing's like collapse, the whole economy and then business is all down. Just one. So the whole business is really very, very bad. And then, okay, then we have to really shut the whole garden down and then retrench the workers. But we still keep the breeding, you see. But even though we keep the breeding also, we reduce the manpower, we reduce the stations into like maybe barely like 50%, you see. Because during that particular times also, I don't have a lot of orders, you see. Orders all over the world is actually dropping down. So what I'm sending right now is maybe 20 to 30%, that's all. And then the worst part is also because of the Penang is not a very big city, you see. So not many international airlines come to our city, you see. So sometimes to find a very good connection to other parts of the world will be quite challenging. So
yeah, I think that was very similar for everybody. So is it getting any better this year?
I think
you're selling more.
When I look at this, the last like maybe 2 weeks, I can see more and more order flowing, you see. So I think mainly the US is starting to slightly open out, if I'm not wrong, you see. And our country, I think they will just leave the whole thing open, just like what Galinda mentioned. They call it as a flu, you see. Maybe no more COVID. They call it as a flu. They don't care, you see. Because we have been closed down for too long, I think. It's a bit too long, you see. Everyone is actually suffering and then nothing is moving. Yeah. So when you go to work also, you don't know what actually you want to do. Even though you remain open also, you receive like barely maybe less than 100 tourists per day. Plus our local border, interstate border is also closed down, you see. So it means that people from Penang cannot travel to Kuala Lumpur and then Kuala Lumpur cannot come to Penang. So that is the worst part, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So has it changed in any way when it comes to freight? Do you have to pay more to get the pupae around the world?
The freight cost is actually, if you compare like a few years and now, the freight cost actually increased not that much, but the clearing fees, the agent fees, that one really increased a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually changed a lot everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for BT?
I don't, let me see if I can say that the reactions button is where you can find the button to raise your hand. I think that we forgot to say it before. So feel free to raise your hands if you have questions. But I wanted to ask you something real quick, BT. So are you able to export every week right now, or are you having to a different schedule?
We will be able to export every week, but sometimes when the shipment is just like 1 or 2, then I will just ask some of the client to maybe switch the dates. You see, maybe from this week to next week or what. So I try to maybe make more shipment on that particular week, you see.
Okay, Uli, you had a question?
Yes, forward looking, how long, when would you be back to a sort of normal production, which of course I know includes your breeding of other insects and invertebrates or collecting, as well as the other markets, market streams that you do, like for tourism and your things that you sell. When will that be expected to come back to sort of a normal stream?
The garden, we are going to open up our garden on November 18th, means next Thursday, you see. So when we open up the garden, you see, so that I believe maybe next February or March, I believe we will be able to go back to our normal production.
That's good to know.
And Leon just wanted to say hello.
Hello.
Oh.
Right. So I think if we have no more questions to that, we will move on to another supplier. So how about you, Richard Bennett from Kenya? Would you like to say something similar? So how were you doing during the COVID period? How are you now? Has anything changed dramatically?
I think now you can hear me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, everything came to a grinding halt early March 2020. Our weekly shipment over to the USA stopped. Flight stopped, and everything stayed stopped until about July, when we were able to pick up to 1 shipment a month to Richard LPSLA. We've been on that regime, I suppose, for about 8 months. Then it picked up to 2 shipments a month all the way through the year. We're expecting, hopefully, given the US market, to get back to normal early next year. So hopefully it'll be once a week. So right now, production is probably about 25%, might be 20%, but that's okay, because over here, we've only got 4 employees. We've got loads of farmers all over the place. So I didn't have to lay anybody off. The big priority was to keep the farmers happy. So basically, I just bought all the pupae in on company profits, keep buying the pupae in, hatch them out, release them, and Watamu is a beautiful place for people that want to come and see all sorts of butterflies floating around the area. We could afford to do that because we don't have many people actually employed. So we spent a lot of that time doing the nursery area, and we've been doing a load of research on different flight regimes and things like that. So I had plenty of time to do that, which a once a week shipment regime really gets in the way of a lot of research. Anyway, plenty of time to do that and get all the plant nurseries up to scratch. So yeah, we're basically ready to go. We're getting requests in again now. Let's just see what happens over the next couple of months. Let's see what comes in. But basically, I think most of our farmers at this end have got through this period reasonably well, I would say. We've managed to keep them all going, and very few of them have actually stopped producing pupae, which is a good sign from my point of view.
Yeah, that is very, very good. How about freight costs and all the charges?
immediately went up once we started up again in July 2020, went up by about 25%. So it'd be about $1,000 paid up front for a shipment over to the States, package to the States.
And I guess
So-
so you having similar issues as Kipepeo, that there is not that many options of the airlines. So that, you know, you will only have to use 1, 2.
Yeah, I mean, we've got limited supply over here, but basically once you've built up a relationship with all the ground handlers and what have you, if you can stick with them, you do. You know, one shipment going wrong a month is basically your profit margin gone.
Yeah.
So we don't do it that way. We just stick with the people. We know all the people all the way down the line.
Yeah. No, that is really good. So hopefully by the end of March next year, you will be able to go back to your normal, you think?
Yes, definitely.
Good.
Yeah,
I think all of us are kind of looking at the same time then.
well, yeah, I mean, we could, your seasons are different to ours. I mean, we're basically in the Southern Hemisphere, we can produce most of the year round. The only thing that really gets in the way is major drought, which we happen to be in at the moment. However, we're still managing to keep production up. We will be able to produce normal quantities, I'd have thought, by mid-Feb. Mid-February next year. We've added a few species as well. So, you know, we've been doing a fair bit of research, species research in the meantime.
Yeah, that is good. We did as
Yeah.
well. Richard at the butterfly farm, he had plenty of time during the COVID time to do his research as well. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think we all try to kind of just do something in the meantime.
Yeah.
Right. So is
Okay.
there anybody who's got any questions for Richard? I can't see anybody. So we will move. Oh, really?
Sorry, it's always me. I'm such a
That's
loudmouth,
okay.
right? Richard, how do you feel? I mean, as far as I know, as little as I know, you do not coordinate with a local exhibit or maybe with Kipepeo exporting as a joint venture to alleviate these extreme swings, and once a month is with butterflies having a shelf life of what, 5 days? Pretty much impossible almost. So you do not coordinate with the other people that are within shouting
Sending-
distance, right?
We're sending to different continents. We can't do it for a start. But basically, I mean, we do, as I say, we've been releasing a lot of butterflies, but we can afford to do it. So coordination would be difficult unless we were sending to on the same airlines, and we're really not using them at all. So I'm not sure. I'm sure Hussein will be on and he'll tell you Kipepeo's side. But basically, I think we've been doing our own thing.
Hussein got stuck in traffic. He just WhatsApped us and told us that he's at least late.
I
Right.
think he's just messaged to say, can somebody send him the link again?
Okay.
Something. He's got issues to log in.
Yeah, I will do it.
Okay, brilliant. So that
Okay.
was from Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah,
So
thank
we will move on to Marion. Hello, Marion. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. So you are calling, or you are from Philippines.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to the people that don't know you, and then give you a little bit of your story of what was happening in Philippines during that horrible time?
Okay. I've been in the business for 12 years already, and we are sending pupae to in Europe, in the US, and also in the South Pacific. During the start of the pandemic, our problem was transportation and cancellation of flights. Like for example, we usually ship through Cathay Pacific, but then we have to ship also to we have to reserve also in Philippine Airlines, because sometimes they would cancel last minute. So we have to reserve both airlines to be able to ship the package. And then when there was lockdown, we have limited public transportation. So the challenge was to get the chrysalis out of the province, out of the island in Marinduque. And we have no public transportation. So and also limited transportation services that we can get. So that was one problem that we have. So sometimes we have to cancel the shipment because we cannot ship the pupae out of the island here, going here in Manila. So what saved us then after the lockdown was we have shipment to Europe, and then when they had lockdown, Richard started ordering from us again. So we continue with our shipments, and then New Zealand came also. So everything was
I think in a way it was quite helpful that the lockdowns were going in waves. So
Yes.
when it was in America, it wasn't so much in Europe. And when it all started in Europe, it just started to open elsewhere. So yeah, this was the only way we could keep all our supplies as well. It was kind of moving around. So when you guys in Philippines had really big issues, it wasn't so bad in Costa Rica and so on and so forth. So yeah, that was quite helpful. And I believe that you had problems with the fact that you had to have permissions to be able to move around in the different areas in Philippines as well. So yeah, I believe that was quite hard. And so what about now? Is it now better? Do you feel like you are now supplying the amount that you did before COVID?
The orders are regular, but we have only about 50% production because some breeders they stopped breeding after the pandemic because they were disappointed that some people were not shipped out of the island. So they stopped breeding. So we have only about 50% production.
Okay. And so I'm guessing it's the same issue with the freight costs and clearance costs. Is everything more expensive?
Yes, more expensive. Travel expensive. It's travel is very expensive from the island going to Manila, and then we have to get another plane going to Europe. We usually use Cathay Pacific. Then we have to get Qatar Airways that they charge us very high. So some clients are they are complaining.
Yeah. Obviously, it is costing a lot of money to get it. But like you said, the biggest problem was the cancellations, which we had as well, and we had to try lots of different airlines. So we completely understand that. And how about when it comes to your permits? Have you been having any issues getting permits done on time?
Yes, we usually apply permits ahead of time. And when shipments are canceled, they're very considerate to reschedule, to adjust the dates of the permits. So we don't have to pay again.
Yeah, that's at least helpful. Uli, you had a question?
Well, I did, but I didn't lower my hand even. I'm sorry about that. When you say your breeders dropped off or stopped producing, is that expected for them to come back to this? And also, there are a number of permittees for exportation from Marinduque. Would those, did that number reduce, or is that just all consolidated or at a lower level happening at the same numbers? And I know Elizabeth is here too now. She might be able to chime in there as well.
The breeders started breeding again, but the problem is um, because we have also big orders from other suppliers. The problem, ano ba, there will be less pupae when we send bulk orders. We sometimes we don't meet the demand.
And is that because there is too many people buying the same pupae?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. I think Beth wanted to say something.
Yeah, wait. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Hello to everyone.
Hi.
So I just like to add to what Marion is saying. There are still many exporters in the Philippines, and there are still so many orders coming in, but there is so much stiff competition among the exporters. To who gets the pupa first will be the lucky one to be able to complete their orders to their buyers. That's now what's happening right now. But many also have stopped because many breeders have stopped because of the unstable situation caused by the pandemic. That is what is happening now in the province, because now I'm at the moment in Marinduque and I'm moving around, and there are so many breeders who got affected because they have breedings that were not bought by exporters or by middlemen, because for the reasons of pupa not being able to get out of Marinduque, or pupa being not able to get out of Manila due to the lockdown also caused in the importing countries. That's what's happening right now. But many of them are also they have still the eagerness to continue breedings, but still over their mind is hovering over their heads if their pupa will be taken, because if they are breeders, they should have they are not sure if the pupa the butterflies and the pupa they produce this week will be bought by the middlemen. So there is so much panic also among the small independent breeders. These are the sub breeders under the permittees.
So does every permittee have their own breeding, or do they share them, or how do you go and get the pupa? So do you have the same route every single week? Do you go to the same people, or how does it work?
Ironically, most of the permittees are not breeders. They are breeding in a small quantity only, because even they breed, their production will not be sufficient to complete the orders because of the weekly shipments. This has been happening for many years. So they need many sub-breeders under them to be able to come up with the correct number of pupae. And even you open new areas, you get threats from the other breeder permittees who are new in the scene. And it has happened to me. I have also some new areas, and it was taken from me, my own suppliers, just because of a small increase on the price. And after when you go back to them, they are no longer, you see, it's so difficult now it's difficult because so you fight for the same pupa that you also have worked so hard for. So I've also tried to do my own breedings, but I was not successful. So I told myself I will just first stop for a while and just do the local business with the butterflies, and I don't know what will happen next, if I will still go back to the export business. But I have also my Marion, who is helping me, and she's the one also now exporting. So I left to her also the exportation of some of pupa of my pupa, to some of my old buyers. What is ironic here is that the permittees are fighting for the same pupae to be sent to your buyer and your former buyers. And then they have the tendency to go around to make the price so down, that just to be able to get your buyers. And there is no loyalty among the buyers. Some of the buyers, it's not in general, some of them are loyal, but some of the buyers, they go to the supplier who sells with the pupa so low. Even you know them for so long, they will press you down with the pupa price. And this is what I hate. I prefer not anymore to export if I will be selling so low, and if there will be continuous fight on the pricing of the pupa. I recommend that among us, they should have a uniform pricing, so there is no threat among us, among each one of the permittees. But it's difficult to put all of them together and have one mindset. That is what is difficult now here. This is what's happening now.
Okay.
So Beth, can I just to kind of clarify on some of those points? So if I'm understanding right, you have, for example, just throw numbers out there. So for example, you have 20 permit holders, and the people who would then go and actually breed the butterflies, the majority of the butterfly breeders themselves are relatively independent. However, as a permit holder, for example, like yourself, you might put some time, money, investment into those people in order to kind of create a network for your exports.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is that other permit holders would then go to people who you've invested in, and while they are independent, you would kind of assume that they have some sort of loyalty.
Yeah.
And of course, so in order to do that, they're offering more money to the breeders, which of course, if they're not increasing prices to the likes of us, for example, as a middleman in the UK, that must mean that what they're doing is they're just basically limiting the profit that the permit holders are making in order to make sure that they can export more than you or more than another permit holder.
No, that's not actually not all the case.
No,
some I don't know how they do that, but I experienced also. These were loyal suppliers of mine.
Yeah.
And I pay them.
My point is that we just
and they get, I don't know why they still change. It's like also with the buyers, they have tendency to change. With the breeders, the same. They also, I try to make the breeders realize that having both of us is good for her. The same price. I don't know what happened, because maybe, I don't know, I get all the pupa, or because there was a case that I gave this person, the supplier, an advance payment, and I was never paid back. I was never given the pupa. So she has maybe jump over the other fence because she doesn't like to pay me back anymore, and then she went with the new buyer. You see, there is no more loyalty. That's why sometimes I'm thinking of doing my own production, but it will be insufficient with the orders that I can get. But I don't like to get more buyers, and then after I have so many plates to fill up that I cannot fill up, so I just let the other plates to the other suppliers. So that's better that way. My only thing is that the pricing is really, some permittees, they don't think for the future. You see, they don't think farther than today. They have to think more farther to make the business go farther, better. Yeah. But they think only of what is today, a few weeks, you see, just to get the buyer.
One question from Hussein. Hussein, what did you want to say? Hello.
Hello. Good evening. Good morning, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah.
No.
Because one question, or it's not a question, but sort of a reminder. And during our conference in Marinduque in Philippines, I can remember one of the issues that we have agreed, or was part of the resolution, was that the permittees and also the breeders supposed to come together and form sort of an association to avoid the competition, the intra-competition, and also the undercuttings in terms of pricing. That was almost 5 years, 6 years down the line. And I can share the frustrations you're going through, Madam Elizabeth, I know that. But what happened? Did you make any move for that? Or there was still resistance, forming an association, or bringing the permittees and also the breeders together, so that we'll be able now to make that decision in terms of pricing and who's supposed to work. And then the second question on the aspect of the breeders. We know very well that the breeders are also working hard, at least to make a living. So we are talking about independent breeders. So if the permittee will not be able to dictate the price, so the breeders will be able now to work with the permittee who will be able to give them a better price. So there's that independence that the breeders are supposed to have.
Okay, Beth? Yeah.
Okay. I have tried to settle that with the groups that I have gathered all the permittees, but most of them, they don't appear and they only send in their representatives. So how can you settle this kind of problem when the real concern is not person is not around? And then it's really difficult to make them go down with the price because they're so afraid that once they don't you see, they're so afraid that the buyers might leave them if they increase their price, because the others naman, you never know what's on their head, on their minds. Sometimes they talk to you, but as soon as you turn your back, it's no longer the same. They really don't they have no, you see, they don't have words of honor. They talk, but after the meeting they still do the same thing, you see. And then I tried this before when I was still in the 1990s, then early 2000, when I tried to put my prices here higher just to show to the environment office that the prices are really high, but there was no change at all. It was not even noticed. So, and the others were continuously showing their applying with the price low at their low prices. So I was the one paying more with the taxes, and then my competitors are not paying really that much. So I was on the losing end. So I went back again to the same way they do it. So you see, I don't know even how to remedy that. I'm still thinking until now. I want it to be the group to be united, because we're not really that many. We're only almost 14, 15 who are active.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping that there will be more people from Philippines to talk to today. I'm still hoping that Jennifer will join a little bit later on, but Uli wants to say something.
First of all, yes, I remember very vividly almost the same discussion in Africa in Hussein's place. But does trouble to have competitors cooperate is a difficult one that apparently Costa Rica seems to have at least worked out amongst the breeders. Is there a strategy in Costa Rica to have a better price transparency to allow or better diffuse or avoid some of these exporter competitors? I mean, basically, normally market forces would say there's 5 exporters that fight over the pupae. They want to buy from the breeders. The breeders can actually increase the price, which is not always maybe working in this logical way. But Costa Rica has had these 80 breeders that you use, Sergio, work in a fair amount, I guess, and in some fair way together? Or is that a misunderstanding on my side?
No, Uli, well, I'll try to be brief, but yes, what Beth is describing is exactly what happened here and what is still happening, right? because as just trying to keep the same terminology. So let's say we are a permittee, right? We are a buyer in the local market and we buy from the breeders, right? And so I think one of the things that we had to do, and I think that has been part of the success of keeping a stable environment here, is they are not associated. In Costa Rica, there is not an association of breeders. They are totally independent. They still want to remain as independent as they can. But we have created a relationship of trust, really. And those of you who know Joris even might remember the way that he was thinking about this business here, and he really thought that trust was going to be the key of this. And so we have kept, because even I heard you saying, Beth, that you raised prices up, but then you had to back it down. In our case, we have kept the torch of saying, no, we will be the best payers, at least with the information we have. We want to be the best payers, and we are not how do you say it, retracting or coming back from that decision. And that's why we have been very vocal about pricing as well, because we don't want to get into a price battle, right? Anywhere, not between breeders. I mean, the buyers in a country with the breeders of the country is taking us nowhere. The same with you guys. So we have tried to keep this very open and honest and transparent so that the situation can remain under control. And the other thing that I think have been, and even I felt it with COVID, is that we do not produce our own butterflies, right? The word is, you guys will support this. We will stick to this rule. We are not going to create our own farm. You are going to be the main suppliers, and we're not going anywhere. One of the things we also did is to protect the network. We are not adding new breeders. It's sad, but we say, no, we are not adding new breeders. We have the ones we need. I'm sorry. And so those are like three things, like the transparency and trust that we have put. We try to meet with them every year. We try to keep them informed of what is happening. We try to educate them. Some people are completely uneducated. It's their first business they had in their lives. And they are afraid, right? As Beth was saying, they are afraid of, okay, if I do something, maybe I will lose you, or somebody will try to steal from me. So that's the type of education, communication that we have had to have. And also try to stay very clear on what are the premises under the way that our business should be working as intermediary or middleman or buyer, right? What is going to be the premise? So in our case, it's like, we're not going to breed our own. We're going to buy from these guys, and we are going to keep the best price we can, as much as we can. So kind of try to be
okay. James wanted to say something.
I just wanted to follow up on a lot of that, Sergio, as well, as kind of a question, but also more of a statement on how things are for us. Just this week, we're going through all our pricing structures for sales for next year. And looking at some of what our suppliers are kind of requesting versus what we're probably going to be able to do. We talk about kind of competition within the country, so like Costa Rica, for example, or Philippines, for example, but within South America, South and Central America itself, there's some kind of nationwide sort of supply, and we have issues where, for example, a lot of the Costa Rican supply pupa would cross over with a lot of the El Salvador pupa or the Ecuador pupa. A lot of it's the same stuff. So each country will have a lot of different socioeconomic issues, and there'll be some freight issues, for example, as well. For example, we might find it easier to get freight from Costa Rica than we do from El Salvador, or Ecuador might be more expensive than Costa Rica on freight. And so when we're looking at pupa prices, and we think, oh, one of the most important things for us is variety. And if you're producing something that's distinctly different from another country, then great. But once they're all the same pupa, it's very difficult to be able to kind of look at it objectively and go, well, actually, your pupa is for example, a Catanephyline amelia, and then a Catanephyline amelia from El Salvador and a Catanephyline amelia from Ecuador. They're all different prices. And so we end up with a very similar issue that we would have in the Philippines. The value of a pupa is different to each country. But of course, once it's come to us and then it goes to the end buyer, they don't care where it comes from. They want the cheapest one. And so we need to really focus on getting the buyers to understand the different structures within each country. So I think this is incredibly valuable that a lot of us, but I was hoping to see a lot more Europeans than I can see today. It seems to be a kind of reboot of yesterday's, and there's a lot of Americans here again, but not a lot of Europeans. They really need to understand what happens in the Philippines, and they need to understand the difficulties that you face and the fact that you will need to raise prices to make it fairer on everybody. And similarly in South and Central America as well, I think it's so important that everybody really understands the difficulties and the intricacies of each different nations, rather than just assuming it one species at a time. That was my point, and if anyone has any thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I can see that Mike wants to say something.
Yeah, I think we're hearing a common theme throughout all of this. A lot of the exhibitors don't really have a full understanding of where their butterflies come from anymore. It's like pupae falling off the shelf at a grocery store or something like that. And somehow there's got to be more information at the exhibitor level. They have to understand that these are difficult to produce. They take time to produce. There's people involved all over the world that are producing them, and the prices are far too low. The exhibitors have to increase their pupa budget in order to make this sustainable. We're on the edge of insustainability right now. We're on the edge of this entire thing collapsing. Yeah. And now is the time to make a change. And I know it's going to be an added expense to the butterfly exhibitors, but there's no butterfly exhibit without butterflies. I think we're at that critical point in our history where we're either going to survive or this industry is going to collapse.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah. It is becoming really difficult now, and yeah, it is going to be based on what the end customer is willing to pay for each pupa. And yes, they are going to have to be educated that it is, like you said, not just, you know, when we get an email on Friday morning to say, I want to order 10 pupa, and you kind of think, okay, it's Friday, first of all, so it's not going to get to you on time. And we don't just have them on a backstock somewhere in a cupboard just waiting for you to order few. It takes a long time to plan it. Logistics are difficult as it is now with all the planes and delays, and so yeah, it is definitely a time for change.
But the group of exhibitors here in this call already know this. You know, we're preaching to the choir here. Somehow we have to get the information out to other exhibitors, probably get more of them involved in this association so that they get educated about where their pupae come from. So that's more expanding IABES reach, getting more members, increasing just increasing the capacity of what IABES does as an organization. And one of the main focuses has got to be sustainability of this industry. The conservation is a wonderful thing to be involved in, but it's not necessarily going to sustain this industry, which is what this trade association was set up to do to begin with, was keep the industry going.
Yes, and hope that the end customer will understand and care, as some of them don't. Okay, so do we have anyone else who wants to say anything to Galinda?
Yeah, I would like to say that the problem is right now that it's a difficult time to raise the prices of the pupae, because yesterday we talked that we have to raise the prices of the transport for every customer about 20% or something like this. So it is very, very important to raise the prices, but I know as the from our butterfly house that the budget is very tight, especially now in this time, and raising the prices of the transport to raise the price of the pupae at the same time. Well, we need to do this, but it is really hard, and the people will only buy less pupae every time. Okay, we have to raise the prices, but the budget will remain the same, especially right now, because everything is tight also for the butterfly houses. So it's really difficult.
My
The-
worry also is that raising prices might affect where the customers are going to buy from. So if we're going to raise prices, say in one of the most expensive ones, and we will still raise prices in Philippines, the Philippines are still going to be cheaper. And we do have some customers that will only buy the cheapest pupa. So instead of buying from Costa Rica, they will all start buying from Philippines, which then means that we will have to buy less from Costa Rica. So it is a balance, and it is, like Galinda said, it is really difficult, and it's really worrying to not push it too far for the end customer to go, actually, I'm only going to stick to the cheapest ones. So yeah, it is difficult.
Sorry, I was just going to add further to that as well, Galinda, that you know, you and I know from previous discussions over email that you know, places will also look to for us and see what we're charging and go, well, actually, you're a bit expensive, or you don't have the diversity. We're going to buy from someone who's offering cheaper pupa. But that person, you know, we end up in a very similar position to what we've been hearing from Beth. You know, we are being undercut in the market similarly by people who are buying from, you know, from Panama and elsewhere, and non-IABES members, and don't have the same sort of values that we're trying to instill. And we're, you know, you start to run the risk of losing customers and eventually losing the ability to have any clout and to develop that sort of kind of develop a relationship further down the line. So yeah, it's there's a balance, and I'm not sure post-pandemic 2022 is necessarily the perfect time for it, but it's certainly the time it has to start.
Chantal, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, thank you. To me, all these discussions, I mean, they started yesterday already, and it makes me wonder what we as an exhibitor can do. And I mean, on the one hand, what we have been doing for many years, we have been, one of our main principles is fidelity towards our suppliers. So we do really not change suppliers. We have, for many, many years, we haven't changed suppliers because we feel that it's a relationship. But I mean, it has to, I think we have to go a step further. And I mean, I think one of the strengths of IABES as a network is sharing knowledge. And I think at the end of the day, maybe as exhibitors, we are going to have to learn to work with a smaller number of more expensive butterflies and taking better care of them. Maybe improving husbandry so that we look at this again as a more precious good and learn to offer whatever it takes to have them live longer and better in our exhibits. And maybe even in a very subtle way over the years, teach our visitors to appreciate a smaller number of butterflies in an exhibit. I'm not sure if we're going to have any way of getting around that.
Yes, thank you. Beth, you wanted to say something to that? You have to unmute yourself.
Beth, could you unmute yours?
You can hear me now?
Yeah,
that's better.
Yeah.
The problem is here is in the Philippines is that we have permittees who doesn't like to go up with the price, so they can maintain the big volume of what they can buy, and the other permittees, they would like to bring it up, so there is no coordination. But I can say that some buyers also, there are many good buyers, but there are also bad buyers that make me really, you see, good buyers that can pay correctly, and there are really bad buyers that even you're trying your best, the best of you what you can give, they don't even look, they don't even consider all what you do for them. My only, the thing I hate here is the price, we cannot convince this permittee to join us to make the price go higher, even higher, a little higher. and not too much low. That's our problem. So it's internal.
Yeah, that is one difficult. I've got Maria who wants to say something. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we can.
Sorry, maybe I'm having a bad connection, but I just wanted to contribute to some of the pricing and sort of sustainability issues for IABES on the long term. Looking at the presentations from yesterday and from today from Africa and all, there's still a lot of strength in coming together. But one of the areas that I really feel we should strengthen is when Sergio mentioned of an executive director who can possibly strengthen in areas of, let's say, fundraising or consolidating information to the public about this organization. And maybe this could add into the grants, for example. But also beyond that, I think the exhibitors also have a mandate in terms of looking at the supply chain, but also the production chain. What value do you want to add to your exhibit? Is it just having thousands of butterflies and within a week they're all dead? Or is it having 20 butterflies that you can talk well about of their origin and add more visitation in terms of your story? I think these are things that we need to balance. But of course, one of the areas that I really sort of look at it in terms of we are all working in our exhibits and maybe we don't have much time as a board or as the committees to put into IABES. So maybe the executive director will be a good choice to do, to help to strengthen some of the things that we cannot apply individually or coming together once in a, I don't know how many times the meetings are for IABE members or board members, Chantal, for example. And so we are busy, we have more time for our exhibits than for IABES. So maybe we should think beyond our conferences and making more value in terms of employing someone who can give us the next step into this, because these are issues that have come up over the years, but I don't think we've had concrete solutions to it. But I think we need someone who can dedicate fully their time and advise us or take the responsibility to move it forward. For example, some of the organizational grants that IABES could benefit from are the climate smart solutions, where butterfly farming and the exhibits really fall into, but we haven't tapped into that. I think maybe there are solutions, maybe there are possibilities, but we need to get someone to work on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maria. Jacob?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to have to drop off in a couple of minutes, but these are super hard discussions, and this is not the first time we've had them, right? I mean, every year we have this discussion about sustainability, about transparency and pricing, and kind of the need to reconcile market realities with our broader objectives and principles. You know, I do think that Mike pointed out something valuable, and we mentioned it yesterday too. I mean, this is preaching to the choir. The people that are on this call are people that care about these issues by and large, I would think. That's why we're IABES members. In the past, we have sort of started down the road of thinking about a code of conduct or declaration of principles. But I do think making being a member of IABES a differentiator in some way is important, without going super complex and going into a process of certification that pretty much virtually none of the exhibitors or suppliers can afford to take on. At least having some basic principles that we commit to adhere to when we are members of IABES. It's got to be voluntary, but at least saying that we're all committed to doing due diligence on our buyers, doing due diligence on our suppliers, that we want to be involved in relationships that contribute in some way to conservation. You know, I think having a very simple code of conduct and declaration of principles that we can then point to when we have press coverage like the recent article from Holland that came out and says, this may be true of some parts of the industry, but it's not what characterizes IABES, and these are the principles we stand for. But I think that kind of gets at a couple of these issues, at least being transparent about how we want these relationships to work, being able to communicate that publicly, and in the process, hopefully being a member of the organization, create additional value for all of us who are committed to being members. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to just leave you with that thought. And I would, if there's some way to follow up on that idea, I'm happy to participate in a new subcommittee or whatever it is to move that idea forward.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Uli?
I fully agree with you, Jacob. Very nice to see you and have you. And generally, I don't think we have abandoned our core values that came from Italy years ago, right? So they're still on the books. We all believe in it. And yet here I am, I'm buying pupae from non-IABES members. And that's kind of an accident of market forces as to some degree, but COVID forces too, changing people. So I cannot really promise that I only buy from a IABES member, but I know them. I see them here on the screen now. They will become members again, so that's all good. And I know their core beliefs are what we do. It brings back Mike's worry about this industry being on the edge. Not to be too doomsday sayer here, but Mike, you have a extremely good handle on where things are going. Are there new exhibits not all still in the making? It's still considered maybe by the consultants that recommend to a city or a museum or botanical gardens that this is a viable income generator as well as educational tool, of course. Have you seen a drop-off of new interests, COVID aside?
Actually, there's quite a few people that are looking to build new exhibits. As a consultant, I don't go out to some city looking for someone to build a facility there. Although there are some cities that could really use one. We wait for people to come to us looking for information on how to do it. And we've had several inquiries in the last year. That being said, I still work mosquito control for a living. There's no way to do butterfly house consulting and make a living at it. But we still get inquiries. There are still people that want to make this happen. So there is potential for this industry to grow, but the supply chain is the immediate concern.
Okay, I was just about to say we've got one more person to talk to, which is Hussein, but I think he just disappeared. Or at least I can't see him.
No, he's gone.
No, he's gone. Oh, it's a shame. We were just about to ask him about his experiences. Okay, well, this is a very difficult topic, and I think we all are thinking the same things and we are all on the same page. But like we said, I guess the issue is getting all of this out into the people that are not members, that don't know much about us. I mean, we've got quite a few customers, new customers that are potentially going to be opening in Europe. So there is definitely more people who wants to do this. But we just have to make sure that when they do this, they do it for the right reasons. Is there anybody else who's got anything to say to the topics? Oh, yes, I can see. I think I've got, hello.
Yes, hi, Joanna.
Joanna.
I grew up in this environment. I didn't really want to get involved before because everything I've heard all the time from my parents is, yeah, we're doing great, but we don't have money for food. So it was just very difficult for me to see how much work was put on to growing butterflies and not getting any revenue back. Like at the end of the year, it was just too difficult. So that's why my parents decided to open up the garden to tourists. And we have put all of our efforts into the exhibition center. Why? Because this is paying, there's an entrance fee and there are people visiting and it's a bit more money coming in. And now like we can look at the future with this. We stopped exporting because it was a headache with permits and transportation, freights and everything. You are all aware of that. So we decided just to stop and dedicate ourselves to the local market. Now, we are very stable in the local market, as I said yesterday. We have big plans for our exhibition here in Mindo. And we do want to export, and we are doing it, as I said yesterday, but we are sending in small amounts because everything is just opening. But looking at what is the income from butterflies compared to the income we get from tickets, there's no balance. And breeding a butterfly takes a long time and takes a lot of effort and people. And I feel like exhibitors need to put that out in the world, and also wholesalers. Like, I don't, as it was mentioned before, I don't think this is taken into account when buying and selling pupae. Just that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that is a good point. So maybe we will ask a couple of the end buyers, couple of the people who own butterfly houses or work with butterfly houses and buy from us. Maybe you have a different point of view, or there is something that you would like to add to our discussion, Uli?
I was just pointing out that Wayne made this comment in the chat that inquiries for permits, I take it, in the US have kind of been going down over the last year, 2 years. Is that correct, Wayne?
Yeah, not so much inquiries for permits, but inquiries about building new exhibit structures. There's much more of a move to building structures that are less than multi-millions of dollars. There are several multi-million-dollar exhibits that have been talked about and proposed, and at this point they're 2, 3, 4 years under consideration and haven't come to fruition yet. But new conversations about multi-million-dollar exhibits have dropped off.
Wow.
That's all I've got.
Thank you. The other question I had, Asuncion, don't you breed butterflies as well? Is that just for your own exhibit, or you're selling them to other places? And what would be the market situation for you in Europe be as one of the Eastern providers of butterflies? Asuncion?
Hello?
You're muted.
You have to unmute.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, but
Asuncion?
No.
Is she gone? Asuncion?
I think we lost her. I was asking
Gone.
her to unmute.
But I think
sorry to
Hussein
mess her up.
is back. Is Hussein back? Yes, Hussein is
Yes,
back.
it is.
Hello. So you were the last person to ask about your experiences during the COVID. So I think we will go back to you and Kipepeo. How are you doing now? How are you doing during the lockdowns? What's changed?
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. And from whatever that has been presented yesterday, when we had the breeders and also the suppliers from South America.
Hussein, we're having issues to hear you very well.
Even
Hello?
Maybe go off video and connection is improved.
Hussein, we can't hear you. Maybe if you switch the video off. Hello?
Hussein, can you hear us?
Hussein? Oh, I don't think he's got very good connection.
Kipepeo case is not much different. Hear me? I'm not audible enough. Let me try this.
I think this is Yeah, this is
Can you-
better. Yes.
Hello,
Hello.
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you
I can
now.
hear you. Hello. Yes, I said. Yes, I said Kipepeo case is not different from the other breeders. Post-COVID and also before COVID. Before COVID, the situation has been okay, has been good. Breeders prepared for the year. But out of the blues, the pandemic started hitting the clients first before even it hit the breeders here in Kenya or in Africa. So what happened was that the farmers were completely disappointed. The breeders were completely disappointed in a way that the much they have saved from the previous year, they were supposed now to plow back for them to start now the season to increase the production. So in April and around March, there was total lockdown, cancellation of the flights, total lockdown also within Kenya. And this completely interrupted the itinerary, our normal schedules for shipment. So there were no airlines that are supposed now to fly the routes between East Africa and Europe, and also East Africa and US. So what happened was that the farmers are completely demoralized, and we cannot tell them completely that the market has collapsed, the industry has been shut down, because this is the investment they have invested this for the last 25, 27 years. So what we told them that is that they're supposed not to lose hope, they're supposed to keep on breeding, but they're supposed now to reduce the scale, to lower the scale, in essence that anytime we get the signals from our client, we'll be able to breed and then back to normalcy. But the situation has not been the same. To the time that we have received the support from the IABES, the support we received from the IABES made them at least realize that they have not been forgotten. But during that time, in Kenya or along the equator, it was the peak season of the long rains. So majority of them, they have been now forced to move outside the location, the locality where they have been breeding the butterfly, to go and farm some cash crop there, be it maize or whatever. So in that scenario, others decided now, because they have been calling us to get the feedback, whether the market has opened up or this, what is the situation at the moment. So we told them that the situation is as it were before. So we receive our communication from us. But that made some of the farmers to move out completely. So it was very, very difficult for these farmers to believe, because in some families, we are talking about 3 generations. They had no any other livelihoods. The income activity, the income they have been receiving was just from the butterfly sales. And then out of the blues came these disruptions, these interruptions. So they were sort of now saying, where will we start from? And what the savings we had, because the market has been normal for the previous years, so what will happen for this case? We don't have money to move or to buy a parcel of land for them now to plow or to plant some cash crops. So in that scenario, it was difficult for us, because they don't know any other organization to run to. They don't know any other financial institution or the services to run to. The offices they know is Kipepeo. So in that scenario, Hussein in the office will act as now consoling the farmers, telling them that the market will be okay tomorrow, and not knowing very well that this situation, the pandemic, will last for even for 2-3 years to come. So we told them ours was just to give them hope. Please, what we need to understand is this is something that no one has planned. It is there with us, so we don't know how long. So what we need to do is, this is an expertise, this is a knowledge, a skill that we have gained through experience. So we don't want to lose this. So what you need to do is go back, plan for the family, work for your family, fend for your family, try to support them. And also in our part, in the office, we'll try also to look for support, additional support, in terms of food, in terms of money, whatever we'll get, clothing, food stuff, rations, dry rations. So we have been supporting them based on the needs, because all the farmers are not equal. The most that have been affected were women, especially the widows, the single mothers. So in that scenario, is a bit, because some of you came to Africa during the exhibition to Kenya, is that the average family was around 5 people per household. So in a scenario where there's no guaranteed income, the market has been completely shut up. So it is now the mother waking up in the morning looking for food or fish. She doesn't know where she's supposed to get to. So others moved out completely. When it comes to now the shipment, after we decided now to open up the market, not fully, but there's some airlines that have been operating. And these airlines were not the ones that we have been shipping our products through before the COVID. So these new airlines, especially for a good example is Ethiopian Airlines. I'm sorry to say it, but they don't care. They are lazy. They have very poor public relation and customer care. In a scenario, they can pick the products or our shipment from here, and then they have the hub in Addis Ababa. Then on transit, they will tell you that the shipment was not loaded to the next flight to London or to Turkey, or let me say like that. So these are very perishable products. And then the next airline, they will tell you that we have canceled. So it's a 2 weeks kind of, you launch your complaint, you wait for 2 weeks. There's no response. As you wait your response, and then you see an email that the package has been delivered to the client again after 2 days. So in that scenario, just wait. You just expect a loss report. On the other hand, the breeders are waiting because they took their time and resources to produce the paper. And on the other hand, the conduit we are using now, the mode of communication we are using, which is now the airlines, which are not reliable because most of the times they cancel also. You book for Friday, for example, and then they tell you that that's the evening, they tell you that we don't have enough cargo. So the flight has been canceled. The farmers have delivered. What will happen in that scenario? The farmers are waiting for money. And we cannot take back again to the farmers, telling them that your products have not been sold, take it. Because we know very well that even if we tell them to take it back, we know very well that there's no way they will take it. So that burden now will come to Kipepeo. Kipepeo, we have now to look for alternative way, either to subsidize the price and then alternatively give them something small for them to see that, plus the people, we tell them, okay, have your paper, take it back. Once it is emerged, please make sure that you release back into the forest. Then so that for you, in case you get any confirmation for the shipments, they will be able now to get the stock to start breeding. The other scenario for this matter was that after the COVID-19, there was a lot of documentations. Each airlines have their very unique shipping requirements. Others will tell you we need this because before COVID, there was no issue of phytosanitary, there was no issue of certificate of origin, there's no issue of sending the document in advance, especially the invoice, something of that sort. What they used to, what the airlines used to, through our broker, through the agent, what we used to send was just the export permit. But after the COVID-19, there was this now vetting, screening, a lot of many other bureaucracies emerged. And in that scenario, in Kenya, there's total lockdown. There's no movement. We were locked down in where we are in Malindi. The nearest airport, international airport, was Mombasa, which is about 120 kilometers, was completely closed. So the available airport for us now to use is Nairobi, which is around 660 kilometers from where we are. And then for me also now to reach Nairobi, it is impossible because already there's a lockdown. I'm not allowed, there's no that free movement. So the station was completely hectic and tiresome, especially for me when I was the only person coordinating because during that time also, the staff were told now to work in shifts. So for me as a manager, I was the person in charge and was daily visiting the office. The others work in shifts. So in some scenario, some scenarios that I will be forced to do everything by myself, to collect the paper, to do the packaging, doing, preparing all the documents for customs, and then take it to the courier. Sometimes the courier, what happens is that in Kenya, we have public holidays. For example, when Sarka will say we need the shipment to be with us on Thursday, the same Thursday in Kenya is a public holiday. People don't work. The customs don't work. So what will happen in that scenario? We will be forced now to pay extra cost to facilitate the custom guys who are in the office to help us at least, because these are very perishable products. Because at the back of my mind, we are not allowed to breed. We don't breed. We support the farmers. So if we fail to send this shipment, this consignment to the client, then the burden will come to us because we are the password. Because the farmers don't know about the transport, the farmers don't know about Uli or whatever. What they did is that they have delivered to Kipepeo and they have washed their hands. The next thing they'll come for is their money. So this documentation, and then also the other aspect was export documents from the Kenya Wildlife Service. This documentation in Kenya, wildlife is placed under, no, butterflies are placed under Wildlife Acts. In some of the clients, they went asked to produce a veterinary document, a veterinary health certificate. So these are completely contrary because in Kenya, vet normally concentrate on domestic animals. If at all they want to produce any certificates. So a scenario where clients needs now the consignment to be escorted, the document to be supported, the consignment is supposed to be escorted by vet health documents. And in our country, the wildlife are placed under, no, the butterflies are placed under Wildlife Act. So it is upon us now, the National Museums of Kenya, to write now to sister organization to help us to write something, even if it's a document, to take it to the customs, because the customs in Kenya know very well that the butterflies are under Wildlife Act. Once they see the export document, they don't have any worry. But we are talking about now the destination. The host country will tell you that this is what we need for this consignment to be released. So these are what we went through. But as at now, we have lost almost, let me say, 70% of the farmers. It's not losing them completely, no. We have not lost them. We have not lost, but we told them at least to scale down. Because what happened is that if they breed, knowing very well that the caterpillars, the butterflies don't lay the eggs in one day. There's that continuity, day 1, day 2, day 3, like that. So sometimes what happened that this week, a farmer has almost 1,000 people and there's no market. So he completely lost morale. He says, Hussein, have this and then let's meet maybe next year when the situation will improve. So we are working on, because of that limited market, what we decided now, we clustered the farmers. We told them at least, if not all of you, then some of you will be able to support. So currently we're working around with 48 farmers. 48 farmers who are not 100% at the production level, but around 50%.
Okay.
And then the other thing is the logistics involved is the shipment cost. The
logistics went up massively. Hussein, I'm really sorry, but we are nearly finished with the conference time. I just want to give a time to anybody that wants to comment to anything you said, if there is anyone who wants to say. Sergio?
So on that final note from you, Hussein, so you're saying that you're working with 8 breeders out of how many that you have?
I said 48 currently, 48.
Ah, okay, 48.
Yes.
Oh, okay. But out of how many did you have before pandemic?
Before pandemic, there are almost around 472 active farmers.
Wow. So 400. So you had 400, and now you're working with 48.
48. If you allow me to explain this, is that it's not only from the Arabuko Sokoke forest. We have other forest blocks, the outliers. We have 4 different forest blocks that normally supplement the species that the Arabuko Sokoke farmers breed. So currently we are working with only the farmers from Arabuko Sokoke forest. The other 3 forest blocks are completely out of the picture.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Hussein. Thank you.
So is there anybody who wants to add anything to what we were saying today, or is there anything that we haven't discussed yet? We have a few minutes left before it's the end of the conference call. No?
The other thing,
Sergio?
maybe if you allow me to say, the aspect of climate change and global warming.
Yeah.
We have been monitoring our butterfly distributions and also abundance within Arabuko-Sokoke forest and its environment. But especially last year and this year, there's possibility of some of the butterflies, especially the specialist butterflies, have been affected in terms of the distribution, also abundance within what used to be within the range. So the rainfalls have been erratic, temperature rise, and then also in terms of illegal logging going on, because livelihoods have been affected. The same people that used to protect the forest are sneaking back into the forest, interfering with the ecosystem, cutting the poles or the trees that used to be the food plants of the butterflies. So for our case, we are kind of saying that maybe we don't know what will happen in 2022, but we are still monitoring the situation. I will be able to advise and share the information later.
Okay. Sergio, do you want to say anything?
Well, now connecting what Hussein just said about climate change and connecting the fact that all of the 48 are around the Arabuko-Sokoke forest, I was thinking about, I don't know if Maria is still on, Maria Fumomeli, about the research project that she did. And I was thinking if any of you guys could respond to, I mean, was there any connection between that research project that you did, Maria, with the breeding practices that are happening around the forest, just to make sure that the population are stable? And I don't know if there was any exposure locally in Kenya about that research project that you guys did, and how was the correlation of those efforts in between both of you?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sergio. On the issue of what I've just raised, the aspect of climate change and then the monitoring of this butterfly is a continuous process. It's a continuous process in the extent that maybe we can, in the last year, I made a publication on the abundance and distributions of butterfly species in Arabuko-Sokoke forest, specifically in the nature reserve. Nature reserve is a devoid of any activities. It's just only for research purpose within the Arabuko-Sokoke forest. So, and also there's also two other research activities undertaken by master's students who have been doing some environmental science activities. So they were able at least to generate their thesis. Maybe in the course of the year, they will be able to share with us. But the situation is that according to my monitoring survey, it is not that I can say 100% that there are some species that have been completely wiped out due to the climate change. But in terms of the distributions within the home range, somehow have been limited. There is appearance and disappearance. So it means at least there's some kind of disturbance, be it natural, be it human disturbance, other anthropogenic effects, we don't know. But it's subject to now, we'll be able to share this information. This work we have been doing with the pioneer of Kipepeo, Dr. Ian Gordon, who is now based in Rwanda. So we'll be able to share how the trend used to be the last 10 years, and this is the 5 years. So we'll be able now to see whether species, maybe for example, Sergio, have been cited for the last 3 years, but disappeared in 2021. What might be the cause? So we'll be able to share those results later.
Interesting. Thank you. That will be a very interesting study to see. So thank you for that, Hussein. Maria.
Hi, Sergio, and hi, everyone. Thanks for the question, and thanks for the input from Hussein. Yes, and I would wish at this point also to thank the Conservation Research Committee for the grants that they granted for my research in the Arabuko forest. It was quite a wonderful study, and especially during the monitoring that we did in the dry season. So for anyone who hasn't read that article, maybe it will be worth going back to I think the last newsletter, the Flatterings, One of the things that really came out during that time is the synergy that Arabuko has in terms of its vegetation zones. So one of the areas that we are trying to implement and sort of pick ahead from there and scale it up is to enhance in terms of butterfly biodiversity monitoring on a long-term basis. And of course, there is data that has been in Kipepeo now over the years for the breeding, and species can be seen which species the farmers have targeted. And Hussein can equally talk about the species that are preferred in the market. But we also need to see, are these species preference in the market, does that affect their population? Does some species target, for example, the very small ones are very abundant, but what of the market species that are preferred by exhibitors? How are they affected in the long term? And these are the sort of monitoring that I will soon be setting up within Arabuko, but also within other forests, to see how these can be combined in terms of a long-term monitoring research to actually back us up as a breeding and livelihood component, but also to be able to talk about it in terms of, are we really going against, in terms of, are we in any way affecting the wild populations when we are also feeding the markets? From a long term, and most of you will agree with me, is that there's no way the breeding will affect the populations in terms of, there's a lot of, let's say, breeding and also release back to the wild. But this has to be backed up in terms of long-term data that we can also use to sort of do this. And this is one of the components that I will soon be setting up with Kipepeo and with other breeders. For example, Bennett, he has his own preference market, for example, that Kipepeo is not accessible to. But how does his species also come up? And these are synergies that we want to bring together as breeders, but also on a conservation level for sustainability. Thank you.
No, thank you, Maria. Thank you for sharing that. Future projects sounds very exciting. I'm happy to hear that we were able to contribute to your research. And again, as you said, I would invite everyone to read her article, the summary that she prepared for the last flutterings that we sent. So thank you for that. That was all I had, James and Sarka, sorry.
Uli?
Can I add that we would love to have more of this done as well in the Philippines, and that was part of where we tried to go, I guess, with what Beth had started, and our Australian and New Zealand board member was very good at. So might have to try and find a student that wants to do these studies in Marinduque, in BT's area, wherever, to get a better handle on all this decline of populations. I know the Americans here complain about so many species going extinct, including butterflies. And we're not just talking, of course, the ones that are flying in our exhibits, but mostly the normal endemic native species populations.
Okay, thank you. So I'm not sure if we have time for anything else, or this is pretty much it. But I would like to say thank you very much all for joining us. It was definitely very interesting to hear all the different points on all the different topics. I'm not sure what we can take away from this. I think we all agree on most of the points. I don't know if we can talk about prices or doing anything else at the moment. I think we will have to think about what we're going to be doing, but we definitely do have to get more members in, the ones that don't know much about this, and hope that they will understand, and then they will follow what we're trying to do. I don't know if Sergio, you have anything else to say, or Uli?
Well, first of all, thank you, Sarka, for leading the session right next to James. Good coffee maker and good support. So thank you guys for your help. Well, I think that as kind of a summary, I know, yeah, we reached the top of the hour and a half we had, and taking back something that Mike said, and because it took me back to why we decided to have this session. All right, we have spent almost 3 hours if we add up time from yesterday's session plus this, speaking about all these issues. And the main reason why we wanted to do it is because we all felt that people didn't understand, especially from the exhibitor side, how the industry worked, right? How challenging breeding is, and not only the breeding part, but the supplying part, the logistics, the permits, and all these different variables that we're having to deal with in Costa Rica, in Manila, in Philippines, in Kenya, in Ecuador, in Colombia. I mean, everyone has their own reality going on. We all share common things, but I think that the main reason for this was to bring back the importance of the topic, and that everyone here should understand how challenging it is. I think I see lots of faces here that have lots of experience, many years hearing these topics. But on the other side, if I turn the page of some of the non-faces I see just a few names, I see names that are maybe the first time joining into this conference, or second, or maybe less than 5 years being here. And I think that it's important that we bring back that we all get a certain level of awareness of what is happening and how challenging this activity is, and how each country is dealing with different realities, right? What we heard today from the Asian and African suppliers is a little similar in certain aspects, but their own reality is also very specific. So the goal that we had was to bring this back, to expose the challenges we have. And as I said yesterday, if this is something that you think that you should take up to your manager, or the exhibit manager, or the director of the zoo, or director of the aquarium, or director of the university, or whoever you think should be aware, please do. And clearly we had, right now we have 36 people. I saw a number of 47 at some point. But I hope that we can continue to pass this message, because as we describe it, not to sound too dramatic, but clearly we are in a very challenging time. And we all need to be very aware of the challenges and how we can assist into all of this. So I want to thank you all again. Clearly there are lots of things open, not very specific actions that we're taking from here, but as, as the president of the board, I will be taking back to the board as soon as we meet again, so that we can decide if we need to open special committees, as Jacob was saying, or even take it from the board specific actions. And one of those, I think, is to keep this audience very engaged. I think that we all agree that it was a good time to get together, see our faces, get a real feeling of what we're thinking into all of this. And clearly it's not something that we will resolve in 3 days on a Zoom meeting. It has taken more than that, even in physical meetings and face-to-face meetings, many years. And so, but I think that we need to start moving and keep all of us engaged and try to keep this industry alive, that especially at this time, I have shared that message. I think that the work that we're doing for the societies we're all living in is very important. We don't need to, besides the scientific aspect of butterflies, we know how many people are visiting our exhibits just to get a time of peace, a time of relaxation, a time of coming back into a space of neutrality and beauty in the middle of the chaos that we're all living in certain ways. So I think that we don't need to forget how important our work is, and I hope that we can all keep the positivity alive, but at the same time keep the realism in the formula, right? That we have a challenging time ahead, and that we all need to collaborate a lot. So I think that that's what I wanted to say. This is going to be our last session, so that's why I want to take again a few more minutes just to wrap it up, and thank everyone from the board, Chantal, Uli, James, I mean, Gerlinde, Curtis, everyone who made this possible during the last 3 days. I think that you saw, or maybe you haven't seen it, but we have posted in our YouTube channel already the 2 sessions, and I will be posting later today this one, and as well some other materials that might be relevant for you guys. So please stay tuned through the YouTube channel, through our website, and I think that in the flutterings we will be sharing some final words about what we did over the past 3 days. So I don't know if there's anything that anyone would like to say before we wrap it up for this virtual conference of 3 days that we're completing, and they went very fast.
I think Hussein wants to say something.
Yes, thank you, Sarka. And whatever I want to say that I've shared on the chat is that it is as if the Tanzania market has been closed down due to the effect of the COVID-19. So it's sad. We are very much disappointed, especially losing Tanzania, Sambara range because you have already lost Zanzibar and now we are losing Tanzania. So that is my worry. I don't know what will happen to Kenya, but we don't want to say that at the moment. And there is possibility for the project to be closed down in Tanzania anytime soon.
Okay. Thank you, Hussein, for that extra note. Okay, anything else before we close the session?
Yes, thank you, Sergio, for doing this. I know you spend lots of time doing it, so I think we all should thank you, especially because you put a lot of time into getting it all together. So well done and thank you.
No, thank you, Sarka. It was a pleasure. I'm happy that it worked. We were not sure about even the technical aspects of this, and we were able to do it. So I'm happy that we had lots of fun. Gert is not here, but again, thank you, Gert, for your Zoom account. He will hear us in the recorded session. But once again, thank you so much, guys. I'm sure we'll stay in touch. Let's keep our best spirits ahead, alive, and try to move forward in the middle of all these challenges we have. But thank you so much once again, and I hope that we can see each other soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.